Hello, and welcome to Dating by Design, the podcast for men and women to learn and understand how to engage with conscious dating, building conscious relationships. With myself, Fidel Bohill, and Kate Mansfield. Good morning, Kate. How are you?
Hi, Fidel. I'm great. Thank you. Really excited to be here with you actually doing this. And yeah, it's going to be fun and very informative. And really keen to get cracking with it, actually. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, both of us are involved in the dating world from very two sides of the same coin, I guess. You work with women, and I work with the guys. And I think when we first got in touch with each other, we could just staring at what seems to be a great divide between men and women out there in the dating field.
Absolutely. And I think one of the reasons I sort of contacted you, actually, I was really keen to work with a male coach, but specifically a male coach who is on the same page as me in terms of really helping to men and women to bridge that gap, to kind of see if we can reduce that huge divide, that big chasm that somehow just seems to be getting wider and widening, especially in the dating world, especially with slightly older people. But, for everyone, I think all generations are suffering with this kind of just, I don't know, it's just a minefield of misunderstandings, right? And people projecting their stuff onto each other and all the baggage we carry. And so hopefully through this podcast series, Fidel and I are going to help you guys to just get rid of some of that baggage and dismantle some of those, some of that emotional scaffolding that we've all put up, and just to help us all to get a bit more connected and a bit more loved up, actually, is what I like.
Definitely. And stop seeing the other side as the enemy or something to be conquered or competed against. I think that's a real bugbear of mine, is that, the part of that divide is about seeing the other side as someone we're kind of fighting against rather than wanting to be with. It's getting quite sort of competitive and stuff like that. So I think what I really want to do is give some hope. Give some hope out there to everybody that there are some good men and women out there.
No, there are, for sure. And I love the title Dating by Design, because it kind of is what it says it is, right? It's an opportunity for us all to think about the idea that we can create the life that we want, and we can also create the dating, love, and relationship life that we want. And actually, it's interesting. I was literally talking to my son about this last night, who's 20. And he's just started dating someone quite recently, and he's really into her. And, my son can get a little bit into all the spiritual astrology stuff. And he said to me, "Do you believe in fate?" And he said, "What do you think, like intuitively, what are you picking up about me and her? Like, do you see it working out?" And I just said, "Mate, it's totally up to you. Like, it isn't already decided. Like, there isn't some like mad God out there who's like already like struck you guys down with like Cupid or some awful curse. Like, this is up to you. You can literally design this and like create this and turn this into whatever you want it to be." And we had a little challenge with her that I helped him through, and just helping him show up, be honest, be authentic, and helping him to actually understand what loving himself means and what that looks like for a guy and for a woman. I'm just so blessed to, have learnt these skills, and I really love and honor and respect the fact that you've got these skills too. And it feels like we've got very kind of I don't know, just similar views, and very much in alignment about authenticity, love, dating, and all of that stuff. So I think there's going to be some fantastic content for you guys through this series about who to date, how to date, where to date, when to date, who not to date, an important one, when to call it, when to keep going, all this sort of stuff. And we're going to break down some really good practical stuff as well, like just looking at the apps and online dating especially, I know can be such a challenging area for lots of people. So we're just going to take you guys on a bit of a journey actually through that, and hopefully bust some myths and give you guys some really great insights, and helping you find that middle ground. Because I think, I don't know, that one of the big reasons for this divide, I think, is that everything's got so black and white, and so one extreme or the other. It's like, I'm never dating online, or I'm going on 1,000 dates. It's just like, oh God, let's try and, I don't know, make this a healthy piece of life, right? Let's try and think about, from a holistic point of view, how can we make love and dating, just a nice piece of the pizza, right? A nice slice of life, as opposed to it kind of overwhelming us or avoiding it, again, which is something we need to talk about later. So
most people that I come across are either all in or they're all out, right? They're either all in, they're spending all day, every day swiping around until they've had enough, and they're never doing it again, and they pull right back out for a couple of months, and then they dive back in and just kind of repeat the cycle. Right. Whereas actually, like you said, it's a part of life, not all of it or none of it. You can weave it into the tapestry for your health and your business activities and everything else like that. Like, dating should be fun. It shouldn't be all consuming. It should be fun, and inviting another person to become the cherry on the top of an already fulfilling cake of life.
Yes, absolutely. And I think from the conversations we've had, I know you've done loads and loads of dating. I know you're in a relationship now, but I know you've done a lot of dating, and I have as well. And I think doing the work that we do in the situation and the landscape today, it's important. It's important that we've both done that. I've done a huge amount of dating, and I got to a place of having huge fun dating and really, really enjoyed it. And so we're going to kind of talk about that a bit later on, I think. But in terms of kicking off the series, today, we are going to start with dating apps, right? So we're going to be talking you guys through some of the main sort of staple dating apps: Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, some of the differences between them. And I'm going to actually be throwing in the idea that which app you choose doesn't perhaps have as much importance as a lot of people put on it. I know Tinder's got a bad rep for being a hookup site. I don't necessarily think it is anymore. But I also think, it's interesting for us to talk through how you approach using dating apps, right? And a little bit maybe about your profile and what you put on there, how authentic you should be. Because I know a lot of my female clients especially feel like, I don't really want to be my full true self or say what I really want on apps, because it puts a lot of men off. And, I say, well, it's probably putting the wrong men off. And maybe,
I guess that depends on who you really are.
Well, that's true.
There is a little bit of that, which is why on another episode we're going to be talking about therapy and some of the help you can get. And I think depending on what you put on, I think profiles are really interesting, aren't they? As a way of seeing where people are at on that journey. And sometimes it can be quite glaringly obvious that somebody hasn't had any coaching or therapy and are just chucking themselves in there from a wounded place. And so I think if that's showing up on your profile, then or if you're getting those kind of messages that people are picking up on it, then it might be something you want to have a look at.
Definitely, for sure. So
where should we start then? Let's start with Tinder, the big bad Tinder, the leader of the pack, the one that everybody's on or has at least been on until they've thrown their phone in the bin.
What do you think about Tinder then, Fidel?
Well, I really enjoyed being on Tinder. One of the things I want to say about Tinder is I think it's probably one of the best brand names out there for a product. And I think it really, for me, hits home what dating apps actually are, because like you said, I think people probably place too much weight on the apps. People talk about the difference between, I'm not dating through apps anymore, I want to do it in real life, as if those two things are somehow separate. That dating apps aren't real life. They are. We live in 2023, apps and our phones, we live through them, on them, we live much of our lives socially, business wise. We're a digital race these days, and so dating apps aren't going anywhere. They are real life, but we often place too much weight on them. And Tinder, I think, is a fantastic word. It's not the flame, it's not the match, it's not anything, it's not even the big bulk of the firewood, it's just the tinder, right? It's there to enable the fire to grow. It's just a platform where you look at somebody and go, I fancy them, I want to have a chat with them, and then you move it into real life, in quotation marks. And so I think it's a fantastic name, and I think it's a great app as well. I think it's the simplest, it's the easiest to use. I think if you approach it with the right attitude, i.e. fun and lighthearted, it doesn't mean to say that you can't find meaningful relationships on there either.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you actually about Tinder. And I think it has got a bad reputation, especially for women. You know, a lot of my female clients say, I'll do anything, but I'm not going on Tinder. And I say, we'll see about that.
What are their reasons for that?
Well, it's just got a kind of reputation for being like a sex site, a hookup site. I don't know why, but I think it may have been years back, 10 years ago when it sort of started. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something about the swipey thing. I mean, most apps have a swipe feature, but I don't know if women perhaps find Tinder a little bit more intimidating than men do. But I totally agree with you. And actually, one of the first pieces of work I do with my clients is kind of preparing them for dating and dating apps. And as you said, really helping them shift their expectations. I talk a lot about the difference between standards and expectations. And I think a lot of women have that back to front. Like they have really low standards and really high expectations. And I say, let's flip that round, right? Let's have really high standards and just let's lower those expectations in terms of outcome, right? Like we're just, like you said, it's the Tinder, it's the spark, it's the first, not even the spark, but the route to it. And also I think the other thing about dating apps in general, but I do like Tinder for the reasons you said, in that it's very easy to use. It's got a huge volume of people. It's quick, it's very easy kind of on a practical level to use and find people. And, it's just a portal. I say to my clients, it's like, it's a great portal into a huge pool of men that are potentially looking for love. They might not be looking for the same sort of love as you, but at least we know,
loving.
I think the benefit of dating apps in general, though, is it just takes out that confusion of when you meet people in real life. Is he single? Is he interested in me? Is he just being friendly? Or people, I think often there can be that kind of hump to get through in normal life where it's there's that gray area, right? It's you can get cues or signals, but sometimes people get confused and think, is he hitting on me? Or now we've got to have that awkward conversation. Like if a guy doesn't ask a woman out on a date, should she ask, what are we doing? And, I think apps are great because it's just a level playing field and everybody knows we're here to play at dating, right? And whatever that looks like. And then your job is really to be really, I guess, clear and specific about your goals and your intentions and, your end game for what you're looking for, but then really being willing to kind of show up, have fun, be in the moment and create an experience, I think, for the people you're dating, right? And this is, again, something I think people don't think about. They're thinking about, it's all the focus is always on the other person, right? Or they're doing this or they're not doing that, or they're not showing up this way or that way. And actually, I always challenge my clients, how are you showing up though? What are you bringing to the table? Are you bringing fun, lightheartedness, creativity, and a great date?
Or are you just bringing a great big magnifying glass and a mallet?
Are you just projecting all of your past pain and hurt all over this poor guy who's just innocently looking for a good time? And if you're not looking for the same thing, it's cool. Don't take it personally. It's nothing to do with you. It's all good.
Yeah. And I think specifically Tinder is an interesting one, which is right. I get that people feel intimidated by it because there are a lot of people looking for different things on there. And I think there are a lot of people on Tinder who are looking for hookups. And quite often Tinder is where I point some of my guys who might not actually be ready for a relationship yet, but they are ready to kind of date, to meet people and look for other people who aren't looking for, like, not everybody, men or women, are looking for a relationship, and that shouldn't be shamed. Like, that's okay. Some people do just want to meet somebody cool to have some conversations with, little friends with benefits, you know, somebody to have sex with, especially post-divorce, right? If you've been sort of 5-10 years without having great sex, then quite often, like, dating apps can be a way to meet people and have an adult conversation about what that looks like, and creating those sort of short-term mutually beneficial relationships like that, as long as it's handled with honesty and good communication. You know, I think that's entirely possible. And I actually think Tinder is a good app to do that, because it's quantity over quality. So there are just lots and lots and lots and lots of people out there. So you're bound to find somebody who's in the same place as you, as long as you're capable of having those conversations, asking those questions, and being honest yourself. And I think that's what might intimidate a lot of people, the volume of choice and their capacity to navigate those types of conversations. Here's what I'm looking for, here's what I want, what are you looking for, what do you want? It's not very British, is it? We like to dabble around in the gray areas and be woolly and stuff like that. We're not great at clear and concise conversations around love and sex,
money,
for sure.
Sex and money are just off the
politics,
table, right? All those things. I mean,
but it's a good place to practice that, right?
Yeah, and actually it's interesting what you say, because I really encourage my female clients to go out and practice and have some fun, and not necessarily to have, you know, casual encounters if that's not, you know, what they want to do, what's best for them, but to really explore dating, multi-dating, and dating lots of different guys, I think is a great way to learn, right? Because again, lots of my clients have either been in long marriages, or they've been long-term single and avoided dating, or whatever it is. They just haven't really given themselves the opportunity to try things out and explore. And actually, when I did loads and loads of dating, it was great for me to do that. It just showed me all of the things that I still needed to work on in myself, but also just gave me an opportunity to kind of, just to find out who I am and what do I like and what don't I like, what are my values, you know, because sometimes what we think our values are, we find out actually there's some other things that are more important to us. And, you know, you can't really do this. I always say as well, it's like, you know, doing your theory test and then getting behind the wheel, right? It's two different things. You cannot learn to drive a car by reading a book, and you can't learn to date and have a healthy relationship without actually getting out there and dating some people.
You've got to get your feet wet, haven't you?
Yeah, get out there, guys. Do some dating. Have fun. Yeah, definitely.
And so, I guess sort of the way that I frame it is Tinder is a great sort of first port of call. A lot of stuff I get from the guys initially is they talk about fake profiles quite a lot, and they get quite frustrated with that. I tend to think I've dipped back onto Tinder recently just to kind of like check it out. Don't worry, Leanne, I'm not on there looking for anybody. Just to kind of to look at it, because it's such a big complaint that the guys were talking about the fake profiles. I don't know whether it's the same for women, but there are a lot of profiles, especially on Tinder, more than the other ones. They are there on the other ones, but there can be quite a lot of phishing profiles. There can be quite a lot of escorts on there. There can be quite a lot of Instagram models just looking for followers, and obviously actual quite serious sort of financial scams and things like that to be aware of. One of the good things about Tinder though is they have the blue tick, and I think, God, there has to be a little bit of self-honesty there. Quite often fake profiles are using like really hot, attractive younger women. You know, guys, I hate to break it to you, but if you're 55, got a bit of a paunch, going a bit bald and stuff like that, like, and you get swiped on by a 25-year-old Instagram model, chances are, I'm not saying always, but chances are that might be a fake profile and that might be somebody. So just ignore them, like, you know. it's not something you need to get upset about and take personally or blame the app for. And it doesn't mean that it's a total waste of time. Just kind of be aware, be a bit savvy about these sort of things.
Absolutely. And it is the same for women. I mean, there are some fake profiles here and there, but it works both ways around. I think if you're smart about it, you can kind of spot them really. And it's just part of dating online. I think we have to just accept that we have to kind of be a little bit discerning. If you ask the right questions, it's gonna reveal itself pretty quickly. And it's the same with, dick pics and kind of getting inappropriate pictures and stuff like that. I don't know. I think it's all part of it. I think what you put in your profile often can help avoid those things if you kind of get it right. And, again, one of the things I do with my clients is help them with their copy and images and stuff, to kind of, I guess, just position themselves in a way that generally tends to put off the wrong types of guys. Obviously you tend to get, but yeah, I mean, it's just part of it, I think. And like you said, it's about not taking it personally and just moving on. No one can hurt you through an app. No one can really find you, stalk you, do anything to you. You can just block people and that's it, and you're done. So I think what's great as well, I think most of the apps now have an in-app feature where you can call people in the app and video call in the app as well. Which I think is great because it saves you having to give out your number to hundreds of people and all of that sort of thing, and you can kind of but we'll get more into that, I think, a bit later.
We're going to do that. I'm just having a little scroll through Tinder actually now, and I'm looking at some of the features that they've got on there. So there's a little bit about verified photos, and then you can actually sort of look and search via your interests. So there's you can have Spotify music mode, so you can add your anthems and find people that like the same music as you. I'm looking for a coffee date, or I'm looking for a date tonight, so people that have got an itch that needs scratching. I'm looking to grab drinks, a binge buddy, someone to Netflix and chill with, gym partners, art lovers. I'm looking to go and see a show. I'm looking to explore, nature nerds, foodies, spa dates, daredevils, like to play computer games with, puppy partners. So there's all these like categories that you can distill the sea of humans, the human catalog that is Tinder. You can actually distill them down now and find people quite quickly who are looking for similar stuff to you, which I think is really, really cool. And their functionality is ever expanding, isn't it? Tinder. Every time I kind of like, I don't obviously go on there anymore, but every time I do check back in with it, there seems to be some new stuff and some new functionality. I think it's the leader of the pack with all of that stuff, isn't it?
Definitely. I think the interest-based stuff is great because, like you said, you can filter by interest and kind of, I think with dating as well, we've really got to kind of get a bit creative and think about the idea that we kind of get out what we put in, right? With anything in life, and dating is the same. If we're just going to show up in a very sort of cynical, cool way and just kind of, dip one toe in and not really put any effort in, like, we're not going to get that much out of it. It's not going to be a fun experience. But actually, thinking about fun things to do, activities, shared interests, it's a great way to just meet friends and make new connections and expand your social circle as well. I mean, not that we're on dating apps for that necessarily. I think
it does happen. I've met some great friends on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to be open to that as well, I think, so yeah, I agree. I like Tinder. I think I would say it's a leader in terms of that. Like, yeah, I dip in and out of it, and some really good functions. And yeah, I think most profiles have got quite a lot of information about the person, not just what they look like, but like you said, interests, hobbies, star signs, all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's pretty good.
On that note, should we have a look at number 2, I think, which is Bumble?
Yeah.
It's probably the second biggest player, I'd say. It's been around a very long time, and it's got a couple of unique parts to it that I think attracts a different type of woman. You can enlighten us into the type of men that pop onto Bumble, but I've always found it to be occupied by a larger percentage of discerning women, just because of the fact the thing that separates Bumble and Tinder is they're very female safety centered, aren't they? The whole platform is designed about helping women to feel empowered and safe while they use the app. So they've got a lot of safety features on there for women. But the main bit is that women start the conversation, which is a little bit controversial in the way that I think both of us kind of coach our clients, not just in dating, but in relationships as a whole, with the whole masculine feminine dynamic, which I'm sure we'll touch on a later episode. But it allows women to open up the conversation. I think therefore there's a certain type of woman likes to be on it. How have you found the men on Bumble?
Yeah, Bumble's probably my least favorite app, I would say, for like the reason that you touched on in terms of kind of creating polarity. And, you know, a lot of the women that I work with are already kind of quite hyper masculine. You know, they struggle with like being in that leader role, wanting to kind of be in control and take charge in a way that actually can often kind of kill that polarity, you know, and they end up kind of then attracting men who are perhaps too in their feminine, who are probably in need of some therapy and coaching, right? If we're gonna right, because they're not kind of in their full masculine sort of, I don't know, in their confidence, in their power, in that zone of like being able to kind of lead things forward. So they want a woman, maybe some mummy issues in the mix. I'm not saying all people on Bumble are that, you know. I think the flip side of it is that, you know, I think we live in a society today where sometimes those roles are a little bit reversed, and it can work really well with certain couples, you know, where the man is a bit more in that kind of passive feminine role, and the woman is more dominant and masculine, and it can, you know, it can work. I don't think it's a case of it being either or, but I think for me and for the types of women that I tend to work with, I'm trying to help them sort of reverse that dynamic. So Bumble is not necessarily the best for that reason.
Which is why I kind of think it's quite a good one, and why I quite enjoyed it. I guess if you are a man who is settled and comfortable in his masculine energy, a woman starting a conversation isn't going to throw you out of that. And it allows you to consciously be really playful with that, and step into that masculine role from an unusual direction. Do you know what I mean? With them leading the conversation perhaps, but you bringing it back around and all of those sort of things. And I think actually it can allow you to demonstrate your skill set in that arena in a really cool way. And I think, again, I probably found that the women I met on Bumble were totally surprised by that, because a lot of the women that approach them, they're on there because they are stuck in that masculine energy. They like to be in control. They want to be the ones to start the conversation, or they think they do. And they wonder why they keep attracting the same man. But a lot of them hadn't experienced somebody like me or the guys that I work with. And so for them, for the guys who do know what they're doing, it allows them to sort of stand out a little bit more and give some of the women on there an experience that they've never had before, which is really cool. And it's a wonderful thing to behold for guys once you learn what you're doing. And again, I think there are a lot of women that are open to that on Bumble, but just don't know how to go about it. And that's what I found some really cool, very intelligent women that may have been out there, entrepreneurs, business owners, people who are working in corporates and lawyers and stuff like that. I found lots of women like that were just looking for a guy to kind of scoop them up and provide a container for them where they can drop their guard and just enjoy being whisked away, but they didn't kind of maybe not even knew it until they experienced it.
Sure, that's really interesting. Actually, I hadn't kind of thought about that necessarily from a male perspective. So I think really interesting as well for people listening to hear that, you know, the two different kind of angles on that. But I do like the safety aspect, and I think there is also something, having said everything I've already said about kind of polarity and some of those issues, I agree with you that for my clients who've kind of finished coaching with me and are a bit more evolved and a bit more kind of aware of those tendencies and have kind of shifted a bit more into their feminine energy, it can be a great app, I think, for practicing being proactive as a woman, because it's such a fine line, I think, right, where there is this sweet spot about where women can kind of lead the way, but in a feminine sense, right? And so really
certainly open a conversation in a feminine way. And I think that's one of the things I found enjoyable about Bumble, was finding the women that did that kind of either naturally or because they've been through a program like yours, you know, little voice notes, bit of humor. I mean, the high, it does work occasionally, but if one of the interesting things about dating apps, right, really, is that guys who are photogenic know how to take a good photograph, who are single, who are straight, and have got their shit together, are, from by the sounds of it, fairly rare. And so on somewhere like Bumble, we might be getting our inboxes might be quite full. And so thinking you can just drop in with a hi, I think Bumble really turns the tables a little bit, whereas Tinder, all the girls get all the inboxes and everything else like that. I think Bumble is slightly different in that way, where, believe it or not, it kind of gives the guys a bit more of an edge, right? The guys who have got their profiles set up properly and have got some great photographs and a good bio. And so quite often, if women are going to open it, it does need a little bit more than just a hi. Not saying that doesn't work, but coming up with something a little more playful and imaginative can really get those sought after men, you know, the guys who've got their stuff together, who are good looking, who are going to treat you well and articulate and able to have a conversation and be open and honest and stuff like that. Bear in mind, they're likely to have an inbox full. So it's quite important to think about how you can get their attention without being too dominant. Yeah, absolutely. And really a good platform to practice that. Like I said, that sweet spot does take a little bit of practice and kind of trial and error and finding what that is, you know, for women who like really in that masculine energy, and then coming into that kind of softer vulnerability, but also the confidence that you need to like be playful and be funny and just show yourself, like showcase yourself and be authentic as well, right, is going to really put you ahead of the game. But I think it's really important what you've just said. And actually, you know, I think as people, but also for women especially, it's a really interesting kind of thing to think about, that there is huge competition out there, ladies, you know. And I think particularly for those women kind of 35 to 40 and above, you know, you're not a 25-year-old Instagram model anymore. You might still be really beautiful, a great patch. I'm sure, you know, lots to bring to the table. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what's in question. But actually, you know, communicating that, how we communicate that to the right person, and what we bring, you know, in terms of effort, energy, experience, and sexiness, and sexiness, you know. I think it's really important. I want to put that out there on behalf of the guys, the kind of older guys. Most of us, we may have been post-divorce, played around on Tinder, maybe dated some younger women and stuff like that, but pretty much every single 40 plus guy that has ever done that has not wanted to stay there. So when we're looking for relationships, we know that we want a woman who has got some wisdom and some life experience. And we find you guys just as beautiful, just as sexy, and just as attractive because of all of those things. As well as physically, you know. And I really want to stress that out there, because I think a lot of women get to that age and the most attractive thing is confidence. Absolutely. And so I kind of want to tell you to have some of that and own what you've got, man, and bring it to the table. That men really aren't that bothered when we get to a certain age about all of those things.
Yeah.
Confidence is critical, and that's the most sexy thing you can bring to the table. And so Bumble's a really good place to demonstrate it with your opening messages, with your photographs, and with the sort of questions and stuff like that you choose to answer on there, the prompts and stuff. It can be a really good place. I think we've used the word quite a lot, haven't we? We've used the word playful. Yeah, I think that's really critical on dating apps. I think that's a really good energy to come, especially for women and for guys as well. It doesn't have to be serious, not at that stage anyway. Let's just be playful, get to know each other, have some fun, and show your confidence. Show your highlights, your good bits. And talk about those and focus on those, and search for the other persons as well.
Exactly. Yeah, totally agree with that. That's great advice there. And actually, just before we move on to talking about Hinge, which is the other big app, just wanted to throw in as well the idea that that a lot of people ask me, should I pay and go on a premium service or even pay a matchmaker? That's another thing that a lot of people,
good question.
A lot of women come to me who've already paid huge amounts of money to matchmakers, and with very little results. I actually hate the whole concept of matchmaking, and I could do a whole podcast series on why that is, because I worked for one and it was a disaster. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that now. We haven't got time. But actually, the reason is that, and I wrote an article about this saying that, you touched on it, like the reality is that really high quality potential partners are a little bit short supply, right? Those amazing people who've done work on themselves, have got their shit together financially, emotionally, are conscious, out there living life, living their best life and all of that. They are not the majority of people in this world, right? We are, they are the unique ones. And so if you are that and you're looking for that, I think it's just good to be realistic about the fact that it doesn't mean you're never going to find that, or it doesn't exist. It just means you've got to bring your A game first of all, right? If you want to sort of match with those people and have a chance to connect with them, like you said, just a high isn't going to cut it, right? That's the reality of it. But also, I think, the fact is that those types of people don't need to pay a matchmaker or pay for premium sites, because like you said, their inboxes are full. They're on all the free apps, and they're getting all the messages because they're presenting themselves correctly and they know what they're doing and they're confident. So those types of really high quality potential partners, I think, you're not going to necessarily find them on a paid premium thing. I think you're more likely to get people who are actually suffering, who need to do some work on themselves and are kind of trying to throw money at it. Which I think is really what matchmaking is about. It's like, if I just throw three grand at this, please find me somebody. It's like, no, you just take your money and go and invest it in coaching or therapy. It's going to change your life and you'll find a partner, as a side thing. Like you said, the cherry on the cake rather than, the other way around. So yeah, just wanted to throw that in there because I think it's an important point.
It is an interesting one. I'm not sure whether I'm disagreeing with you. I don't think I am. I do totally agree with all of the points you make, but I do encourage my guys to pay for the premium service on the apps, on Tinder and Bumble and Hinge. I do encourage them to do that so that they can see everybody that's matched with them. And I think there's something a bit like coaching, the difference between going on somebody's program or just reading a book. I think there's something about putting a financial investment in. So people who complain about just the free versions of Tinder, Bumble and Hinge, ante up, man. They're businesses. If you pay, you're going to get a better service. You're going to see the better people. You're going to be put in front of more people, and for the energy that you're bringing to that experience is, if you're too cheap to pay whatever it is, what is it, 25, 30 quid a month or something like that? I don't know, it might be a bit more than that now. Then what's that saying about how you feel about your love life?
Yeah, that's true.
If you don't want to invest a few quid a month to heighten the experience and put yourself out there, and you're just after free, I think what message is that telling you, your own self, about how much you want this, about how much you think you're worth, that area of your life is worth? you're spending that on sandwiches, you're spending that on beer, you're spending that on your porn subscription. Just cut all of those things out, man, and amp you up. It's an important area of your life, even if you're only in it for friends with benefits or some short-term relationships. Like, have some self-respect, I think. And I think sort of paying for those services are a really good symbol to yourself that you're taking this seriously.
Sure. No, that's a fair point. And I guess for me,
there's a line there, isn't there?
Yeah, I think, I would agree with that. I mean, I think it's less about the actual money. The point I'm making, it's kind of more about those really high-end, apps.
Absolutely. No.
But no, totally agree. Actually, like Tinder, to see who you've matched with and all of that is definitely worth paying.
It's a very frustrating experience, I think, on the free versions.
Yeah.
I think I actually signed up for I've got a lifetime membership of Bumble. They did an offer or something like that ages ago. I think it was a couple £100 or whatever, and you could have lifetime access to Bumble. I'm not sure what that said about how I was feeling at the time. I think I did it I think I invested it on a professional basis.
Yes, research.
I definitely paid for it out of my business account anyway. If you're listening, HMRC. This is what I do for a living. So let's move on quickly and have a little look at Hinge. So Hinge, when I first discovered it, was where all the cool kids hung out, right?
Yeah.
My little foray into dating much younger women happened through Hinge for a start.
Yeah.
I've met quite a lot of young ladies with some daddy issues and stuff like that on there. Some of them very open. Some of them actually said it on their profiles. Hi, I'm a young woman with daddy issues. Like, and I was like, okay, daddy. But so I had some fun on there, but it was also, I think Hinge, it still is a bit like that. It's obviously become a lot more mainstream now, but there still seems to be quite a lot of alternative people on there, right? People who are a bit more eclectic, and there are a few artists, musicians, people who are into lots of different stuff, a lot more entrepreneurial people on there. And people who are just into loads of different things. It's a much more eclectic mix, I found, than both Tinder and Bumble. So that's what that's the way I always describe it, it's where all the cool kids hang out. As I said, it's changed a bit as it's got bigger and bigger. And I think when I first joined it, there wasn't even that many people from Bristol on there. It was mainly London focused, but that grew pretty quickly. I think Bristol did a massive take up just because of the type of people that were there. And it's still quite inner city. I think there's quite a lot of people that I've spoken to that live in sort of more suburban and rural communities that there aren't that many people on Hinge out there. But certainly if you're in London, Hinge for me is number one.
Yeah, I would say so. I think if you're an entrepreneur or kind of just really great kind of alternative people, a bit more arty, a bit more creative, a bit more kind of unusual. And actually what I love about Hinge, there's some great in-app features, like you can video call in the app, you can audio call in the app, and also it's got all the prompts and stuff, which I really like. Actually, they ask some really good questions.
I'm still not sure how I feel about them. I've got to admit, I'm not sure how I feel.
Some of them are a bit silly.
Being able to free flow and write your profile, and like the only option you've got is to answer the questions. I'm not sure how I feel. At one point, I can really see the advantage of it, because it prompts you, doesn't it? It stops you having to think about it, which is a plus and a minus. Some of them are silly, which again, it's playful, right? Which I do like. And it gives people a real chance to use their wit. I mean, I've come across some absolutely genius
really good profiles.
Some of the questions.
Sure. And actually the other great feature they've got now, I think, is you can do a video of yourself kind of talking about
voice notes as well,
and voice notes, which I love. Voice notes, which we'll get into that obviously later on with kind of dating.
I found that came along after I'd come off of there, but I've noticed that so on your profile you can leave a voice note on your profile, which is really, really cool. I think you can tell a lot about somebody from hearing their voice. and their accents obviously work really well.
Yeah.
So all you people out there with sexy voices,
And
it's
also like
can be a real game changer for you.
What they say, in terms of the answer to the
Uh-huh.
question, when you hear someone saying it, it's completely different experience from reading, what they've written. So, yeah, just a great opportunity again to kind of showcase your creativity, your fun, your humor, your wit, and listen to other people's and actually think, mate, it's just not for me, that I don't find that funny at all, or that's really dull. Like, why would you answer the question like that? Or, oh, amazing, I'm in hysterics, let's talk, so it's a great way to kind of go straight in, isn't it? And have a little mini experience of the person, actually, which I think is one of the really great things about online dating and apps, as a thing, as a tool, is that it's just so quick, it's so convenient. And, when we think about, people go on about sort of the other way of dating, going to a bar or meeting people, in person or whatever, in real life. I mean, hopefully we do that anyway with online dates. That for anyone out there who isn't meeting people, who's dating online and isn't ever meeting anyone in person, you definitely need to get some therapy or coaching, and to unpick why that is. Maybe you're avoiding, but yeah, I think, it's just a way in, isn't it? And it's a great time saver, I think, for those of us that are just busy living our best lives and don't want to spend hours sitting in a bar, sort of eyeing people up and hoping that someone's going to talk to you, or having to kind of do that conversation. But there's nothing wrong with that, and there's some great maybe we'll weave that in actually for an episode, some more stuff. But
I think especially as you get older as well, I mean, I don't know about you, but like my social life and stuff like that isn't spent going out to nightclubs and bars. And if I do go out to the bars, I'm with my mates, I'm not going out on the pool. The thought of going out on the pool, I don't know, just no, ain't nobody got time for that. If I'm going out to have a few drinks, I'm going out with my friends, and that's because I want to spend time with them and in their company. The thought of going, I mean, when I was in my late teens, 20s maybe, but not anymore. I think you're right. I think Hinge does actually, I'm just having a little swipe around in there now, and it really does give you, weirdly, without the profile, actually does give you a much deeper insight in a flavor of the people than the other apps. One of the things I really liked about Hinge as well is, for research purposes, people like either your answers or they like your photographs. So you could tell which photographs are attracting which type of people. So I used to use Hinge as a real testing ground for different photographs, different angles, different compositions. So with different people doing different things, seeing how successful they were, moving the positions around, but also seeing what types of women liked what types of photo. And that was a really interesting little experiment, which you can then carry across to the other apps if you're on them as well. The ones that do really well on Hinge, you can go, okay, that photo, if you've got some new photographs that you've taken from a recent trip or something like that, you can test them out on Hinge, and see which ones are attracting the types of people that you want to speak to, and then you can carry those across onto the other apps.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I think Hinge sounds like Hinge is both of our favorite.
Hinge is our favorite,
Our favorite app, guys. So yeah, if you once you've, maybe it's like Tinder first, then do a bit of Bumble, and then graduate to Hinge when you're really ready. When you're, I think there's value in all of them actually, and it's definitely worth trying them all out and seeing, because they've all got something different to offer, and perhaps in that order is a good order to do things as well. So that would be my take on it. So cool. All right, well, I think we're kind of coming towards the end. We've gone way over time, which I think we basically like 15 minutes, like 45 minutes later we're still here. I could still talk for another hour, but I don't want to send anyone to sleep, and everyone's got short attention spans these days, dating and listening to podcasts and everything else, right? We've all got ADHD. I definitely have.
They can join us next week. We're going to dive into communicating on the apps, the texting, the video calls, the voice notes, kind of the what to do's, the what not to do's, when to move from the apps onto WhatsApp or whatever, and kind of arranging dates, message tempos, what you can tell, and some of the expectations that we have of other people and their response times, and all of that can causes absolute emotional turmoil for so many people, doesn't it?
Yes.
So we're gonna dive into that on the next episode, and we look forward to.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And I would just want to throw in the idea of just talking a bit about ghosting as well, because I think that's a huge issue that comes up at that stage of dating with apps. And I know a lot of my clients are actually really confused about what ghosting is and what it isn't, and when you should tell someone you don't like them, and how to do that, and how to move, on from something.
Being a good ender.
A good ender and a good beginner, right? So, or it should be the other way around. But yeah, I think that's something else we can throw in there for the how to date on apps, right? How to manage messaging and all of that. So I think that's going to be fantastic. So yeah, well, thanks, Fidel, for today. It's been great fun as usual. And hope everyone listening has enjoyed and got some really good value. And we will see you guys next week.
Look forward to it.